The moment Madison Carter steps into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, it feels less like a legal proceeding and more like a fashion event she expects to dominate. Her designer heels echo against the marble floor, her Prada handbag hangs casually from her shoulder, and her Chanel sunglasses stay firmly in place despite the indoor lighting. At just 19 years old, she moves with the confidence of someone who has never been told no. A gold necklace reading "Daddy's Princess" catches the fluorescent lights as she scrolls through her phone, completely detached from her surroundings. She isn't just late, she's 20 minutes late, and she doesn't seem to care who noticed. But the reason she's here isn't trivial. Madison is facing multiple serious charges: reckless driving, hit and run, failure to stop for police, and obstruction of justice. 3 nights earlier, she was driving 80 miles per hour in a 45 zone through Providence when she sideswiped a delivery van and kept going. She didn't stop to check on the driver. She didn't call for help. She only slowed down once she reached the gates of her exclusive neighborhood miles later. When police finally caught up to her, she didn't apologize. Instead, she repeatedly asked the officer if he knew who her father was. Her father, Senator Richard Carter, chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, a name Madison has relied on her entire life. What she doesn't realize is that none of that matters in Judge Caprio's courtroom. As she reaches the defense table, Madison doesn't put her phone away. She ends a FaceTime call mid-sentence, drops into her chair, and immediately starts texting, snapping her gum loudly. Judge Caprio greets her calmly, but she responds with a dismissive "yeah, what?", barely acknowledging his presence. The disrespect is obvious, yet the judge remains composed. He asks if she understands why she's there. Madison rolls her eyes and calls the entire situation ridiculous, claiming the van came out of nowhere and that her family already paid the driver far more than the vehicle was worth. The charges are read aloud, each one more serious than the last. When asked how she pleads, Madison sighs, checks her reflection in her phone, and declares herself not guilty, clearly irritated by the inconvenience. Her attorney, an expensive Washington lawyer, steps in and offers restitution, explaining that the van owner already accepted $15,000. The implication is clear: money should make this go away. Judge Caprio calmly shuts that idea down, reminding the courtroom that criminal charges cannot be erased with a checkbook. Madison interrupts, insisting they already paid and that this should be over. The judge's tone shifts, not louder, but firmer. This is not a negotiation. This is a court of law. Unbothered, Madison returns to scrolling on her phone, muttering she has better things to do. The courtroom grows tense. Judge Caprio takes a breath and announces they will now review the evidence. Dashcam footage fills the monitors. Madison's BMW weaves through traffic at dangerous speeds as police lights flash behind her. She ignores them. She accelerates. The pursuit continues through residential streets until her car clips the rear of a delivery van, sending sparks flying. The van swerves violently, but manages to pull over. Madison never slows down. She keeps driving. Moments later, her car pulls into a gated mansion driveway as the officer approaches on foot, asking her to end her call and provide identification. Madison refuses at first, dismissing the officer entirely. When she finally turns around, irritation fills her voice as she mocks the idea that she fled the scene. Then she asks the question she believes ends everything. "Do you know who my father is?" The officer calmly responds that it doesn't matter and asks again for her documents. That's when Madison steps closer and begins threatening his career, explaining exactly how much power her father has. The judge pauses the video. The courtroom is silent as everyone absorbs what they've just witnessed. Madison sits unfazed, examining her nails, while Judge Caprio removes his glasses and looks directly at her, ready to continue. Judge Caprio's voice remains calm as he asks Madison if she has anything to say after watching herself threaten a police officer, flee an accident, and endanger lives. Madison shrugs it off, claiming the footage lacks context and insisting she was only trying to educate the officer about who he was dealing with. The judge listens, then reaches for another document. Phone records from that night have been subpoenaed. Within minutes of receiving her citation, Madison contacted her father's chief of staff, asking if the situation could be made to disappear. As the clerk reads the text messages aloud, the courtroom murmurs. The casual language, the laughing emojis, the assumption of influence all paints a clear picture. Madison's confidence falters, but she tries to recover, arguing that making a phone call isn't illegal. Judge Caprio doesn't argue. He simply moves on. The delivery van driver, Mr. Nguyen Chen, joins by phone. His voice is steady but emotional as he explains how that van supports his family, how he works 12 hours a day to make ends meet. He describes the moment of impact, the fear, the shaking, and the disbelief when the car that hit him never stopped. He explains how representatives later pressured him to accept money and stay quiet. He refused. He didn't want silence. Judge Caprio's voice remains calm as he asks Madison if she has anything to say after watching herself threaten a police officer, flee an accident, and endanger lives. Madison shrugs it off, claiming the footage lacks context and insisting she was only trying to educate the officer about who he was dealing with. The judge listens, then reaches for another document. Phone records from that night have been subpoenaed. Within minutes of receiving her citation, Madison contacted her father's chief of staff, asking if the situation could be made to disappear. As the clerk reads the text messages aloud, the courtroom murmurs. The casual language, the laughing emojis, the assumption of influence all paints a clear picture. Madison's confidence falters, but she tries to recover, arguing that making a phone call isn't illegal. Judge Caprio doesn't argue. He simply moves on. The delivery van driver, Mr. Nguyen Chen, joins by phone. His voice is steady but emotional as he explains how that van supports his family, how he works 12 hours a day to make ends meet. He describes the moment of impact, the fear, the shaking, and the disbelief when the car that hit him never stopped. He explains how representatives later pressured him to accept money and stay quiet. He refused. He didn't want silence. He wanted accountability. Madison mutters under her breath, calling it an act. When pressed, she openly accuses Mr. Chen of exaggerating to get more money, stating he should be grateful for the settlement. The courtroom reacts instantly. Even her lawyer can't hide his discomfort. Judge Caprio's patience reaches its limit. He reminds Madison that she endangered a human life, not just damaged property. She dismisses it again, insisting nobody was hurt and blaming the situation on her father's political position. The judge opens another file, revealing a previous incident where Madison parked in a handicapped space and claimed her family's donations gave her special privileges. Her excuses fall flat. Then Judge Caprio stands. The room goes completely still. He speaks slowly, deliberately, explaining that Madison's behavior represents everything wrong with unchecked privilege. He lists her actions one by one: reckless driving, fleeing responsibility, threatening an officer, attempting to buy silence, mocking a victim. Not once did she show remorse. When she tries to interrupt, he stops her. This is her moment to listen. He explains the harm she caused Mr. Chen, how she treated him as an obstacle instead of a person. He describes how she weaponized her father's name against a public servant. His words cut through her confidence, stripping it away piece by piece. Madison's face pales. Her lawyer remains silent. The judge makes it clear, wealth does not place her above the law. Money cannot erase consequences. Her entitlement is dangerous, corrosive, and unacceptable. Madison finally tries to plead for something reasonable, but Judge Caprio defines reason differently. Reasonable means accountability. He announces the sentence for hit and run, a $10,000 fine. Madison reaches for her handbag, assuming it's over. It isn't. The fine must be paid by her personally, through her own employment, within 6 months. No trust funds, no family money. Failure means jail. The word lands hard. Her license is suspended for 18 months. She protests, panicking about transportation and convenience. The judge responds coldly. Millions of people manage without luxury vehicles. She will learn to do the same. Then comes the final piece, 300 hours of community service. 300 hours, Judge Caprio explains, working directly with immigrant delivery drivers in Providence. Madison's shock turns into horror as she realizes this means real labor, real visibility, and real consequences. She accuses the judge of trying to humiliate her. He corrects her. This isn't humiliation. This is justice. She made her father's position public when she used it as a weapon, and now accountability will be public too. The judge reminds her that Senator Carter built his career on service and integrity, values Madison has dishonored. Tears stream down her face as she begs for mercy, apologizing for the first time. Judge Caprio remains firm. He wants the lesson to last. He wants her reputation to be built on character, not connections. The gavel strikes. The sentence stands. Any attempt to interfere will double the punishment. The courtroom adjourns, leaving Madison frozen in her chair as reality crashes down. Within hours, footage spreads online. By nightfall, the story trends nationally. Political commentators react, but the most powerful response comes from Senator Carter himself. He publicly supports the ruling, stating that his daughter will complete every hour without interference. 2 months later, Madison Carter stands beside Mr. Chen's van, wearing a plain work uniform, her designer image gone. Her hands are dirty from work, her demeanor quieter, humbler. As she helps load packages, Mr. Chen tells her she's learning. Slowly, but learning. Madison thanks him sincerely, acknowledging she didn't deserve the chance. For the first time, her words carry weight. For the first time, Madison Carter understands that privilege doesn't excuse behavior. Responsibility does. And this time, the lesson sticks.